What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to the madness. Today we're going to be doing another Axe Effects tutorial, and today we're talking about the ring modulator. Now, what does a ring modulator really do? Well, when you modulate really anything, is you're multiplying it by a cosine or a sine wave. And what happens is you've got this frequency content right here in the center, and when you modulate it, you get that portion shifted up in frequency and down in frequency. Now, what's going to happen with the ring modulator is you're going to end up with these three different types: a normal, and then an SSB, which stands for single sideband, and it's going to be an upper or a lower, which means the higher or the lower frequencies. But that's for a little bit later in the video, and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about via some examples and some playing. But let's jump right in. But the major deal here is that with other kind of modulation, we're usually tinkering with a frequency modulation, meaning the pitch is being shifted back and forth and not something else. However, this time, as according to the ring modulator block notes themselves, this is an amplitude modulation, which means it sounds almost like the volume knob is being turned down and up really quickly, right? So you can hear. When I set this thing down really low, you can kind of hear that difference. So the major issue with using this is that as the frequency goes up, you've got your main signal right here, like your dry signal, what's coming into this block. Like if I turn this thing off, you've got that as your main tone, right? Sounds good. You turn this thing on, and all of a sudden, now it's going to be shifting back or down and up with the modulation, the amplitude. But the further you turn this thing up, the further away from the center your signal diverges, away from the main signal. What I mean by that is that the frequency actually shifts left and right, and you lose the main dry signal. This is what I'm talking about. As you shift the frequency up to say 50 hertz, your amplitude fluctuation is going to go very rapid, so you're not going to really tell the difference, but then you're also going to hear a frequency difference. Obviously, that's not exactly what we were thinking that we were going to hear, right? You're thinking, oh, 50 hertz, you're going to hear some sort of frequency modulation of 50 increase or something. But that's not the case. It almost sounds like a switch is being pressed super quickly. But that's kind of what we expect with amplitude modulation. So you increase this frequency, the further the signal diverges away from your original signal. Now, inside this little diagram here, that's what I'm showing. This main zero right here, if you can see it, that is where your original signal lies. You increase this frequency, it shifts left and it shifts right at the same time, and then your amplitude of the original signal drops by about half, okay? And so now we've got two signals being merged together essentially under the classic type that is going to exist as now the signal coming past this ring modulation block. So everything post this is actually just two pieces added together that isn't your original signal but shifted down a little bit. Now this frequency multiplier is multiplying that frequency by some scalar amount. As of right now, it's 1, so it's not actually changing this frequency at all. But if I were to drop it down to 0.250, this thing is now acting as a 12.5 hertz frequency modulation, or amplitude modulation. So now you can hear the fluctuations going, right? You increase this. With it at 4, it's acting as a 200 hertz. Now if I drop this back to 1, increase it to 200, you'll hear the same exact thing. Exactly what you expect, right? So these two are pretty self-explanatory about what's going on. Obviously, the further the frequency goes up, the further it diverges away from the main signal. Now let's increase this thing all the way and see what happens. The max is 2,000, so that means the amplitude is going up and down at 2,000 times per second, right? And under the classic type, you're getting both the high and the low. Now what happens if I pick just the lower? We want to get rid of that high, right? Because we want only the lower. And then the upper, that's almost to the original signal, right? because you're picking the upper, but then you're filtering it out. So you're getting rid of any sort of artifacts from that modulation. But you put this back up to 20,000, you're bringing them back. Add the lower. And then if you have the low cut, tell you the truth, this frequency should never, in my opinion, be set to above, like, really kind of 50 or 30. It doesn't, to me, sound very good. But you can tinker with it. So these little dots mean you can have modifiers attached to these, which you can do some interesting things. To me, you know, you could have a FC pedal, you know, just an expression pedal tinkering with it. I'll show you what that is like really quickly. So I've got mine plugged in so you can see that. So now the frequency is adjusted based on my pedal. And now that's pretty cool, right? Have some interesting kind of sounding artifacts going on in there as well. You know, but that's kind of the main beef. That's what's going on here. Now you go to pitch tracking. And to me, when you add the pitch tracking, it's a little bit more musical. And then go back to classic. I just think the single sideband lower, which right here, is what sounds the best. So that's just my personal opinion. Obviously, you're right to your own opinion. Tinker with this as much as you possibly can or want to, because, you know, in the end, these are effects made for you to be creative, right? So that's the beef. That's the gist. I hope you got something out of it. You know, if you did, let me know in the comments. But otherwise, I'll catch you all on the flippy floppy, y'all. Ciao for now.